Our next key historical motorsport event is the 1906 French Grand Prix. Grand Prix, translated into English, is big prize. So Grand Prix, a term heavily used in motorsport, is like a lot of other things in motorsport, has its origins there in France. This initial Grand Prix was organized by the French L'Automobile Club de France, a sanctioning body or club, auto club that I mentioned earlier, that was organized this event in response to the Gordon Bennett Cup, which restricted each country to only 3 entrants. So that makes sense because the French, they dominated the automobile industry. They dominated a lot of these racing competitions. And so you could be the 4th best car driver combination in France, but you weren't allowed to compete in the Gordon Bennett Cup, even though you would dominate and probably beat most of the number 1s for all the other countries that were competing. This competition was held on a closed but public circuit near Le Mans, France. And so although it's not the same as the circuit we would see in Le Mans, where the 24 Hours of Le Mans is held, we definitely can see the origins of motorsport in France in this particular area of their country. Over time, after the success of this competition, then started and triggered other countries having their own competitions. For example, in 1907, the Germans had what would become their first ever Grand Prix. And so this idea then later moved to other countries, in which you then start to develop a racing calendar, the French Grand Prix, the German Grand Prix. Also what comes out of this then is particular entrants or particular teams that all they do are compete in these various competitions. So the origins of race teams that are connected but a little bit separate from the actual automotive manufacturers themselves. Up until World War I, French and the Germans were the ones competing head-to-head, the ones that were pretty much dominating these races. Over time, though, after World War I, the Italians entered the fray. The Italians became rivals with the Germans and the French as well. Absent at the time were the British. And so the British, you didn't see much support, public support for motorsport in those particular countries, whereas obviously in France and Germany and Italy, it was much more widely promoted and supported.